What is going on, my fellow fat kids? Today, I will be trying my best to save the Blackhawks from the awful situation they're in right now. It's being reported that DeBrincat will more than likely be traded this offseason, and it has been stated time and time again that Kane and Toews will not stick around for a rebuild. This team has only one untradeable contract, and that is Seth Jones. But other than him, this offseason will be an absolute fire sale. First off, let's start with the DeBrincat trade, because in all likelihood, this is the first one that happens in real life too. Here, we trade DeBrincat to the Devils for the second overall pick, which they have said they are open to trading, Nico Daws, who is a promising goaltending prospect, Michael McLeod, a young roster player to slot into next year's lineup, Shakir, a foreign player who is a 6'4" D-man who is a recent first-round pick, and another high second-rounder. If the Devils are open to trading the second overall pick, that tells me that they are likely open to trading other futures as well for immediate success. And that is what DeBrincat can bring them. Getting Jack Hughes, a young winger of DeBrincat's caliber, to play alongside of for the next decade would be a great move on the Devils' end, especially if the only roster player they give up in doing so is Michael McLeod. The Devils still have a very deep prospect pool with players like Luke Hughes and Alex Holtz in the pipeline. On the Hawks side, we're praying that the second overall pick can land us a player similar to DeBrincat's skill level, and all the other pieces will just be gravy on top. With the second overall pick, the Hawks will select Juraj Slavkovsky, a 6'4" winger who is dominant physically and offensively. He will stay over in Liga for another season or two to help his development before coming over to the NHL. After that massive trade, let's go to a slightly smaller one with Dylan Strome's RFA rights. For this trade, I chose Seattle, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Seattle, just whatever team signs Ryan Strome in the offseason. Although it feels like he's been in the league forever, Dylan Strome is still a young forward with good potential, especially after his breakout season this year. Seattle has 7 second-round picks in the next 2 years, so parting ways with 2 of them really won't kill them, and they'd be more than happy to do that if it means getting the Strome brother connection. 2 seconds is not a bad haul for the Hawks either. After the Strome trade, moving right on to Dominik Kubalik, who is coming off of his worst season in the league, and he has continued to regress each season since he joined the Hawks. He would have fetched much more than this 2 years ago, but honestly, this is the best I can see him getting at this point. Edmonton will be wanting another goal-scoring winger to make another playoff push after they more than likely lose Evander Kane in the offseason. And if they can get out from under the Kassian contract, which it has been reported that they're having difficulties doing, that's even better. Chicago will have plenty of cap space for the next few years, so taking on Kassian isn't a problem for them, and they get more draft capital out of it, which is what they need. The final trade here is one that truly signifies change in Chicago. Both Kane and Toews have said that if they get traded, they want to get traded together. That is honestly a pretty difficult clause to make work, but I think I've done it here. In a world where this trade happens, both Strome and Kopp walk to free agency to open up the cap for New York to make this work, and Nemeth waives his no-move clause for the promise of playing top 4 minutes in Chicago. After making the conference finals, New York will want to go all in right now, and this trade sure as hell does that. Panarin reunites with Kane and Toews from his days in Chicago, so there's already some natural chemistry there. Kane will obviously give them another offensive point-per-game star, whereas Toews can play a more defensive role, trying to shut down the opposition so they can't just walk in and shoot from wherever on Shesterkin like they were able to do all playoffs this season. After making this trade, and really not losing any significant pieces off of their roster, New York has made a legitimate shot at the Cup next year. On Chicago's side, they get another 2 first-round picks, so in the next 3 years, they now have 8 total first-round picks, as well as 9 picks in the first 3 rounds of this draft. They also get Kakko, a recent second overall pick, who is just finding his game in North America, who can hopefully be a big part of a long-term core of himself, Doc, and Slavkovsky. They also get a 21-year-old D-man who can play in the NHL this upcoming season in Nils Lundqvist. And finally, they get a high-potential but injury-ridden Sammy Blais. Well, we finally reached the end of the fire sale in Chicago. Let's look at the free agents now. We can ignore Strome and Kubalik. These are just the deals that I see them signing with their new teams. But for our RFAs, we start with Kurashev, who's a young, serviceable winger who will play a large role on our team for the next few years at a cheap cap hit. Next up is Caleb Jones. As bad as the Seth Jones deal is, we're stuck with him for 8 more years, so might as well do everything we can to make him happy. And if that means bringing his brother back, so be it. Next, we have Kirby Dach, who I signed to a bridge deal in hopes that he'll take that next step in the next couple years, now that he's getting a bigger role. Then we have Sammy Blaze, and I will not give him anything over 2 years due to his injury history. And finally, we have Capo Caco, who I don't mind overpaying in the short term to hopefully help convince him to stick around long term. Moving on to the UFAs, we just signed 3 cheap goalies in hopes that one can give us at least like a $8.95 as a starter. That's the end of the moves. Let's just take a quick look at the lines, and that will be the video. This team is like really bad on paper, like Arizona level bad. Our biggest goal next year is to finish absolutely dead last and try to snag either Bedard or Michkov in the next draft. Well, that's all I got for now. Be sure to check out my other videos in this series. Work out, eat healthy. I'm just kidding. See you in the next one.